We
22.
are live. Good morning, everybody. We are live, and we are here to learn some Torah. And of course, in our minds and hearts are all the folks in harm's way in Ukraine. So we're dedicating our learning to the preservation of life and for peace. You know, Reb Shlomo says that there's one blessing which it does not come for an individual. It only comes for a group. And this blessing comes from the highest place, and the blessing is peace. So let's daven that blessing should come to the world, and we need it badly. We also have in mind folks who need a refuah shlema and need healing, and we're going to dedicate our learning for refuah shlema for Aliza Chana Bas Dena Ariella, Lynn Bas Pesalea, David ben Sophia, Maya Bas Sarah, Herman Mechaim Sheva, Leah Bas Freda, No Avram ben Mindel, Ruth Bas Sarah, Rachel Gold, Yitzchak ben Dvorah, Dina Bas Mindel, Aaron Ber ben Gittel, Amram Shoshan, Dan ben Dvorah, Maya Bas Sarah, Chayadam ben Esther, Azrael ben Moshe ben Sarah, Macha ben Rachel, Chaya Bas Sarah, Nachum ben Hershel, Aliyah, Rina ben Ethel, Emmanuel ben Julia, Avram Shimon ben Sarah, Leah, Harriet ben Lillian, Benjamin Sarah, Clara Bas Etza, Chavas Dina, Karen Shnei Bas Golda Rachel, and all those who need a refuah shlema. We are on chapter 32, reviewing the laws of health. We are on paragraph 23 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. If you want to find the exact spot, you could look in the class notes. Afterwards, they will be posted. So we've discussed eating, we've discussed drinking, and we discussed exercise. And today he starts off with sleep. Person needs to rest. He says it's good. Because he says that your faculties are at rest, i.e. your brain, your mind can rest, and it's good for digestion. What if a person's not well, they're not able to sleep? Tzarich, so of course that's a big concern. You should eat things that are going to make you shluffy. Aval ribu eshina, but too much sleep, mazekes, that's going to be harmful. She's male harosh me ha'edim ki yarba ashan ha'oile min ha'beten el ha'moyach v'male harosh ashan v'zeket gufas. So he's giving, again, contemporary advice of the day about why too much sleep might be bad. It doesn't line up with today's medicine, but for sure, in moderation, and sleep is healthy. Says a person should not eat should not sleep, right after you eat. He shouldn't go to bed hungry. Shouldn't sleep when you're hungry. If you're hungry, again, he's concerned that when a person is resting, when they're hungry, it's going to be detrimental to health. Says when you do sleep, you should have your head raised up a little bit. Lefi because good for the digestion. I'm sorry, I'm flying through this a little bit because I want to point out that it's not all stuff that we're going to follow today, but the idea that we need to sleep, and there are definitely ways to sleep which have been shown to be maybe more beneficial, but that we won't go into that because I am not a sleep scientist. Ushena Yom Mazekes, he's concerned that a person should sleep during the evening, and sleeping during the day is damaging unless you are accustomed to it. I.e., if you're a person who has a night shift and you sleep during the day, so it's okay, but a regular person should avoid. In chapter 71, he speaks more about this issue of when to sleep. Number 24, derech harachitza, shikanes adam lemerchat mishvi yamim l'shvi yamim. So a person should, now we're going to talk about hygiene. So he says you should go to the bathhouse at least once a week. But he says once a week. Today, of course, we're much more spoiled. And we can go to the bathhouse every single day because it's usually in our house. You shouldn't go in when you're hungry, or if you're too full. So you should. Bathhouse is a whole thing, right? It wasn't just your, popping into the bathroom for a quick shower. It was there's a whole to do, and he didn't want you to go when you're hungry or too full. So he says you should first wash your body with hot water, and then you should rinse with lukewarm water, and then finally with cold water. When you get out of the bath, you should clothe yourself well and wrap your and cover your head. He's afraid the person's going to get chilled if they are not careful after you get out of the bathhouse. Certainly, all of our mothers reminded us of this. You even have to be careful in the summer, shouldn't get chilled. So now, again, he's talking about somebody who's going once a week, and they're probably going to go like on Erev Shabbos, maybe even a Friday morning or midday Friday, and he says you should, after you go to the bathhouse, should wait till your body rests a little bit before you should eat. And if you want to take a short nap after the bathhouse, that's okay. In fact, he says it's beneficial. So, I'm thinking about, especially if you went for like a schwitz, a steam, and you're really, it really can take a lot out of you. A nice nap is a good thing. Okay, number 25. Paragraph 25, excuse me. You should live in a place where there's pure, clean air. Should try to live high up and in a spacious building. And in the summer, you shouldn't live in a place which is open to the north, not to the east. Shum davar mupash. And shouldn't live in a place where there's something foul smelling. So this is awesome, right? I should clean the air of the home with good sense. And ba'ashamim moilin, that's like something that's going to air out, fumigate. In other words, you should have good smelling things in the house. Today we might say, what are those aroma scenting things? Okay, he's concerned that we live in a well ventilated and housing. 26. Havira tov l'brius haguf, air that is best for the body. Sheyeh memuzag shaveh, should be average temperatures. Memutza ben hakor v'cham, not too hot, not too cold. V'lochen yizer kol adam shelo yichamem es beiso harbe b'yoyis hachorev keder chanshim b'li das. And he's concerned that some people in the winter are going to heat their house up so much without thinking, with too much heat in the house, and then there's going to be a lot of damage done, like really bad illness. So he says when a person's heating up their home in the winter, they should do it just so it's warm enough, but they shouldn't sleep in it, and they shouldn't live in a very, very hot home. Okay. 27. Lishmor chush ha're'iyah yizer midvarim elu. So this is again, apologize, I've said this a few times. He not just concerned with, and the Torah is not just concerned with what we're eating, what we're drinking, sleeping, all these different things to maintain health. is also going to give other advice of how we can take preventative measures. And preventative medicine is definitely better than treating something that since you've already become ill, right? So you want to prevent illness. So here are some ideas, whether they are in line with contemporary medicine today, is, not the point. The point today, though, is there might be some interesting things here. The most important point is preventative medicine is a Torah opinion. It's a Torah mitzvah, Lishmor chush hayariya yizeru midvarim elu lo yavo bechipazon bepam achas b'cham choshech lor. So he's concerned to preserve your sight. You shouldn't go from a place that's really dark to really light really quickly. V'im tzarich lekanis b'cham choshech lemakam or. You've got to go. You're in a dark place. You need to go to a light, a place that's bright. Yiftach etz adelet ma'at v'yisakel ba'oisa or mu'at is a ragim. So he's saying, open the door slowly, kind of let your eyes adjust, look at the light, a little bit more. So he says you should kind of look at the light slowly as you open the door, then open it all the way. The same thing, if you're going from a place that is very, very bright, and you have to go into a darkened room, because he's concerned that it'll damage your sight. He said Hashem in his great compassion created the world in such a way. The same way. The sun comes up slowly, right? And if in fact, it's I love being up before dawn, because you see how the really it's so beautiful how Hashem brings light to the world, right? Just very, very slowly comes up in the in the east, and slowly the sky, and then slowly the whole sky. Finally the sun comes up. Not once. Also, when the sun sets, it goes down slowly. And then even after sun sets, right, darkness comes in slowly. And we even make a brach on this. Because Hashem, in his compassion, brings on the light slowly and takes away the light slowly. Or hachoizer min hashemesh perush. So Hashem is zorachas al eze makom misham bala or ze mazik leinaim. So again, we're concerned that about the light. Now, what about light which is reflected? Okay, so it's reflected from one thing and then into your eye. So he's also worried that something bright will damage the eyes. So he's concerned you shouldn't live in a house where all the windows are only from the south. The north, because especially in that part of the world where he's living, the north, you had the least amount of. If your windows face north, you got the least amount of sunlight. And it's just going to be reflected light. So he's worried that a person should live in a home where there's like some direct sunlight, and that it shouldn't just be all reflected light. So now, again, continue with preserve sight. He's concerned that if you're going to be writing something, you're going to be reading something, or lasoit kol malacha, or doing some kind of fine handiwork, or ben hashmash. So he says, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day, when there's not a lot of sunlight, right? The light is very, very weak. Should not be a time to do very fine work or read or write because of the straining of your eyes. Or if it's very, very bright. So also, what about reading a book with really, really small letters? Okay. So he's concerned that a person is reading with just the light of a candle and trying to do very fine work or read very, very small print, that they're going to have to strain their eyes. and he says that's not good. V'istaklos harbe betzeva. Okay, so a person who looks too much at white, gamken mizin, he's worried. If you're staring at white, it's not good for you, for your eyes. I mean, worried about staring into fire or into something which is red, smoke, and the smell of the coals. So a lot of times people use those to heat their home. He says that's also not good for your eyes. Avak, dak, or dust, very fine dust, or very, very strong wind. Kalu kadamaois enai vakashe mikulan hu roiva mishkal aval mitzvah Hashem bara mir senai. So now he's going to give bring some psukim to kind of bring some support for these medical assertions about this. So the first is that he's concerned that too much walking, large strides, and too much carrying. In other words, he brings a pasuk in Eicha. In Eicha it says, "My eyes are spent with tears." Okay. So he says that's referring to somebody who's like they're extending themselves too much in a way that they have too many tears. He's also worried that a person should have too much intimacy, too much activity with their spouse, and he brings another pasuk from Tefillin. The commandment of God is clear, enlightening the eyes. So whether any of this lines up with today's understanding, he's very concerned that a person, even in very, very, seemingly innocuous activities like reading, we should be careful that we are doing things always to preserve our vision. And interesting, so I see a question here about light from electronic light. I'm not an expert in this. I know I've read things about blue light for and against, not for, but like saying that it's an issue and saying it's not an issue. There do seem to be studies that a lot of light from a screen at night, it makes it harder for your brain to transition to sleep. So that seems to be well established. So whether it's bad for your eyes or not, it's bad for your sleep. The question of whether the blue light is damaging for your eyes, I don't know if that's been established or not. And then he doesn't explain where the idea of the reflected light comes from. We'd have to go dig deep down and find where he took this from. What I find so interesting, of course, is that they didn't in those days, nobody knew about vitamin D and the effect of sunlight in helping your body to create vitamin D. And today we know that if you don't have access to actual sunlight, your body, is not going to make enough vitamin D, and you can become vitamin D deficient. And so a lot of people take vitamin D in the wintertime, especially if they're living in an apartment building or whatever, and they don't have access to it. So, and vitamin D, I think, also is connected to eyesight. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You can send me an email, send me a text, write it in the comments. But isn't that interesting, right? Vitamin D is connected with access to sunlight, and it also is connected to eyesight. I think the biggest takeaway is that you might have thought that he would say, well, if you're learning Torah and it's little small letters, everything's fine. He doesn't say that, right? He says, right? You have to be careful. Even if you're doing a mitzvah, you're learning Torah, you're studying, you're doing some kind of important task. Still, even though you're doing important work, still need to be careful for your health of your eyes and of your body. Everybody have a phenomenal day, and let's daven for peace and the bracha of peace. And there's things you can do if you want to help. There's a lot of relief organizations, and I'm posting those details in the notes on the class and on my Facebook page. God bless you all.